Welcome to the Bleep Bulimia podcast with guest Jordan Turbyfill, a story worth listening to. Hi, everyone. I am Lorianne. I am the host of Bleep Bulimia. And today I have Jordan Turbyfill. And this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you so much.
Okay, so this is like you're going to be saying, my audience is going to be asking, why didn't you give an introduction with a title? Because Jordan probably has many titles, but he has a really interesting story. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, and to my listeners, you're going to find out, why did you reach out to me?
So I reached out because I really liked basically what you had written in your bio, and I felt like I really connected to that on numerous levels. Because as a kid growing up, I watched my mom really struggle with bulimia and constantly throwing up her own food or gagging herself after every meal behind closed doors. And never really understood it as a kid. And then as I got older and started my own business and the stress of life began to close in on me, and I didn't have the proper tools to understand how to properly take care of myself. I began to basically starve myself for a solid year to the point where I got down to 140 pounds and basically felt like I was dying myself, just a slow, painful death. But through a lot of mindset training and positive action and positive habits each day, I've learned to come out of that and really stack wins every day. So I felt like it was you'd be a good person to talk to and kind of share my story and hopefully help some of your guests.
And I love that. So we were talking, I mean, you are a flooring contractor and mindset fitness and nutrition coach. So it's not like you didn't have a title, but the thing that what you came to me for, I found is very interesting because I have not had, I mean, I know we talked about how you struggled with eating disorder, which would have been more on the anorexia side, and your mother was more on the bulimia side. But having a parent, as a child, having a parent who has an eating disorder. I'd, I'd, I'd like to hear some of your thoughts about it. How did you feel? I mean, you must have loved your mom, and what was going through your mind, knowing your mother was doing this and hiding it, as we were talking about, because that's what we usually try to do, but you being aware of it.
Oh, I mean, it was heartbreaking. I think uh, for me and my three older siblings, it was absolutely heartbreaking to watch. And she would always do it behind closed doors and try and make sure to not show us that side. And I think, to be honest, that made it worse because it really just left us in the dark on like what was going on. And, obviously as kids, we just wanted the best for our mom. And um, if we have no idea what's going on, how can we help her? And it kind of turned more um, painful, I think, by choosing to do it that way. And we always tried to help her. It was something that I don't know that she ever really grew from. I think she still struggles with it today. Um, but yeah, it was a heartbreaking thing as a child to watch.
So how did you equate that? So, I mean, some children would think, oh, mom is sick all the time, right? Some people would think that mom is sick, what's going on? How did you realize that it was actually, and you're in okay, so here I am, I'm in my 60s. Bulimia was not really known. You're in a generation, a younger generation than me, where it was, uh, people knew more about the fact that there was this, bulimia existed. But how did you know that it wasn't that she was sick and that she was bulimic? I'm just curious.
I never really felt like she was sick because it was like a constant thing. I felt like she was slowly dying. And that's what made it like heartbreaking. I just felt like I was always gonna lose my mom and I never knew when. Um, it was because when you're sick, you show more signs that you're laying in bed, you're kind of low energy. She would be like smiling, happy, eat dinner, and then go to the bathroom. And then, we'd be like, "Where's mom at?" And walk down the hall and hear her throwing up in the bathroom and try and stop her, but the door's locked and we can't do anything about it. So it was never like a sick thing. It was always like, damn, there's really something wrong, and none of us really know anything about it. So
Yeah. Uh, okay, so then you said that you went through your period. How did you feel when you were, and you were kind of the opposite. It's not an opposite, okay? So, but it's kind of opposite, like bulimia and anorexia. And bulimia is where you take intake, and get rid of, but anorexia is where you restrict yourself
yeah,
significantly. And I mean, and give people, and if you can give my listeners an idea, I mean, I can see you, but like what difference there was from what you were to 140. Because you look like you are very fit and everything. So
yeah. So I'm
140.
yeah. So 140, I was like, I felt like a wet towel. I felt like I
Okay.
was dying. Before I was probably the most I weighed before that was like 180.
Yeah.
Right now I'm at 167, and I've never felt better than I do right now. And that's another reason why I wanted to come on and talk about it, is because I do feel like the two have similarities of how they happen. And I
Yeah.
think it has a lot to do with your mindset and how to go through life. I think a lot of people go through life and have the feeling of like, oh, this is happening to me. But anything that's happening in life, in my opinion, it's God trying to teach us what to handle and how to handle it. And you just have to learn the proper tools to handle every unique situation. But God only tests people with certain things to sharpen them in a way to handle situations that are even greater. So, you know, um, a lot of the things I was dealing with was with business and money and stress, and I was constantly trying to like chase business, uh, which wasn't, that's not what I should have been doing. And I was trying to force situations, and I feel like a lot of the same anxiety and stress that my mom was dealing with that led her to that point was, trying to be the best parent, trying to make money to buy us whatever we wanted, and then feeling like she wasn't able to give us everything that she wanted to, and that was kind of the same thing I was dealing with at home. But once you kind of flip the mindset and just learn to be satisfied with everything that you have, uh, and everything that God has given you already, there's no anxiety. There's no stress of, can I handle this? Can I do this? You just start to stack positive habits each day to where, as soon as you wake up, you have breakfast and you get that food in your stomach. And it's funny me saying that because I literally used to wait till like 12 o'clock at night to take one bite of like a Chick-fil-A sandwich, and I would throw it in the trash after one bite.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
yeah. Um, but you stack wins, and so even eating is a win in my book. So you get that breakfast in your belly, that's a win, and then you follow that up with going to the gym or getting your workout in. That's another win. And if you can stack wins all day long, you're going to win the day. And even if everything around you starts to turn completely negative, as long as you don't get sidetracked and distracted uh, by evil or by people
Mhm.
trying to pull you apart or take you down, and you just stay on track with your daily habits, you can turn the worst day of your life into the best day of your life. And I've seen it over and over again the past few months, for myself. And I just feel like it's so important to just try and help and guide and teach people the tools that I've learned, because I mean, it's been life changing for me. So,
That's lovely. And that's a really good, it's a really good story. I like the stories of coming around and recovery, and it is recovery. I am like, as of last month, I am 13 years recovered after 30 years.
oh,
And
wow.
we talk about
Congrats.
never wanting to go back again. Yes,
Yeah.
and to my listeners, by the way, it hasn't had not its consequences. I'm going to get some partial dentures next week because it, it took a toll on my teeth. I'm not gonna lie about it. Like you were saying, be, open and honest. If you are looking to recover, sooner than later is better, but don't knock yourself. It will come. It will come. But just
Yeah.
really don't stop pursuing it. I didn't stop pursuing it for 30 years. But then there's some triggers that you don't know are the triggers that go away and then end up, or when you realize what's causing it. I think, and it's what you were saying, like, you were trying, and your mother was trying to do her best, and trying to over exceed what really you should be doing. Like,
Yeah.
instead of focusing on you loving yourself and saying, you know what, my list is way too long. Let me cut it down a bit. And, but I think that at some point, a lot of us feel we can't even cut down our list.
Yeah.
And,
Totally.
right? And so
Yeah.
when
I
you
think,
do get to that routine, like you're saying, no, I'm going to cut down my list because I'm more important. There are important things here, but there's things, I mean, if I don't want to wash my floor, I'm not going to do it. Don't be, OCD and have to do everything on your list. But that's what I was.
I think a lot of people struggle with perfection and they want this like perfect plan and
Yeah.
perfect trajectory up to ultimate success. But
Mhm.
when you sit and you think about perfection, you don't even take your first step. And if you can't even take your first step, you're never even going to get there. So you got to just have more of a passion for progression
Mhm.
and moving forward. And the second you fall down, which, everyone's going to fall down, everyone's going to have off moments, but try and eliminate the time that you spend in your off moments. Some people will even have like an off moment and they'll turn it into a whole off day, where they're like sitting and sulking, like, oh man, I should have been doing this. And it's like, no, the second you fall down, you got to just pop right back up and just get right back on track and keep moving forward. Um,
And
Perfection is so hard to hit, so just don't even think about it.
And it is. It's like, I love that you're saying, you take your first step. Well, as kids, right? We take our first step, but if we fall down, but we can keep getting it back up again, and we keep getting back up again until we perfect our walking. But there
Yeah.
are moments, I want our listeners to understand that there are moments, because I went through it, where I went through bankruptcy, right? So that failure, that's a hard one to pop right back up again.
Oh,
But
totally.
it, but it's to allow yourself to go through the process without, and I think a big thing on that one, because I went through that, um, and then I had to go through, and then I actually recovered, believe it or not, from my bulimia through that period. But having good support, good family, good people that say, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine. And you are, in a sense, but it's not to go back to the bad habits, not to go back to where your failure was, right? You see what I'm trying to say is, it's like,
Mhm.
because as a someone who goes into bankruptcy, they feel like they failed, and a perfectionist who fails is like the hardest thing. And I've spoken to people about this, but the weirdest thing is, actually, no, I had recovered just after my bankruptcy, and I went through 3 years of going through that stuff without going back to it. But there was something about a trigger that was almost like that failure was what I needed to
Yep.
stop having to do so much.
Yep.
Does not make any sense at all. And then,
Totally. And I can totally relate to that because like
right?
I was totally at the same point of like when I first started my business, I felt like, in my mind I had to be a perfectionist. Yeah. Everything had to be perfect and nothing was ever gonna go wrong. And you learn quick in business, especially in construction, like nothing goes your way, nothing. And you just have to learn to adapt and like get back on your feet and keep moving forward. And also learn at the same time that you're getting back on your feet from like what not to do. And I think a lot of what I grew up with was a lot of lessons of like what not to do. And it's
Mhm.
really helped me in business as well, to be able to learn from that side of it. Because I feel like a lot of people just learn from like mentors of like what to do, but they fail to learn from their own mistakes. So,
That's a beautiful thing to say too. Is I think I've said it on a previous podcast, but I really loved it where my daughter. Okay, so my ex-husband is very successful. He's never had like he's had the little ups and downs, but nothing like what I've had. Look, and my daughter who said that she goes, Dad, he's been pretty successful on a constant. Um, and she goes, and you, I saw drop down right into the pits. And she says, and you got yourself up again. She said, I'm really, I love that I have two role models. She's got the role model has retained a successful business throughout, but she's also watched her mother. And I thought, that's true because if you have two parents that have been always successful or two parents that have always not been and not brought themselves up again, um,
mhm,
I mean, you're looking at different role models, but then you have the role model that's dropped down, came back up. You realize that even if you are up here and then you come down here, you can come back up here. And even if it's not up here to here, it's still coming back up again, right?
totally. Yeah,
You
totally.
don't need to achieve perfection. It's like, be happy.
100%. Yeah. And that's where I'm at now. Like
Nice.
I have so much more time to myself and
Yeah.
um my business has never been better. My daily routine of consistent habits that make me feel better allows me to give my family so much more of myself and just of like happiness. And it's just great. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, it's just a mindset switch. And once people get that, you can just create your surroundings to
Yes.
work for you instead of working for others. And a lot of times it comes with valuing yourself. I think a lot of people, they don't value themselves and they don't value their own time, especially in construction. Uh, you know, they'll just go do stuff for free. And it's like, no, 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 no. You
That
gotta
that
value, you
that's
gotta value yourself.
That's in more places than you'd imagine.
Oh,
And
I'm
people
sure.
are always asking for free, right? But yeah, I know the
Yeah.
construction business is really difficult, but I'm just saying is that a lot, my listeners, a lot of them will uh totally and absolutely be able to relate to that, doing things for free instead of valuing yourself. And it is a hard thing to do. The hardest thing is putting the value on yourself. Like it
Yeah.
really is. Uh,
Yeah.
but I love that you've changed your mindset and I love that you brought into the fact that your business and your family and your mindset are all under one umbrella. Without one or the other. If you don't have the right mindset at business, it's going to fail. If you don't have the right mindset in family, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but the
got to be
biggest thing
all
is
encompassing. Yeah.
if you don't have the right mindset in yourself, you're going to fail yourself, which is the biggest failure is failing yourself,
Yep.
right? Like,
And then once you start failing yourself, then you start looking for vices
yeah,
to numb that pain of what you're in reality putting yourself through. And
yeah,
that's where I think a lot of people dive into drugs, they dive into alcohol and stuff like that. And yeah, for me, I've been sober 7 years.
good for you.
After dealing with my mom's stuff for a bit and kind of taking a lot of blame for that. I followed in the same path, not with like the hard drugs, but definitely with the alcohol. And I had to learn the hard way a few times, and through a lot of self-sabotage, had to pick myself back up and keep going. But it's been very rewarding to learn from all of those failures. And yeah, like I said, just focus on progress, not perfection, 100%.
Absolutely. And I do have, and I'm sure that my listeners are going to wonder about this, so I'm going to ask the question too. So your mother, um, and it sounds like she's a very caring, giving person and giving a lot. And like, where is she at now? Is whether you
She's
want to share or
in,
not?
yeah, 100%. So now, my parents got divorced when I was about 7.
Mm.
And like you were kind of talking about with your daughter, my parents both kind of went complete opposite trajectories. My dad went back to school and got his master's degree and makes tons of money now. My mom dove deeper into the drugs, and her drug of choice would be meth. And
Oh,
she's now in prison on a murder charge. And I think she spent um, 10 years, 12 years now in jail. And she'll be out. I think she got third-degree murder. It was, to be honest, it was hard to read the police report. Um, but
yeah.
I know she got 17 years with no parole. So she's got 5 or 6 more years left. And that happened when I was about 20. So it was,
Wow.
soon after I graduated high school. And um, yeah, last time I saw her was when I was 18, and she looked like she had aged about 30, 40 years from
Wow.
like 6 months before I had seen her. And um, it was a lot of really clear methamphetamine use. And
In the
um,
prison.
yeah,
Oh, Lord. You would hope
yeah,
that that would have been an area where she would have had the opportunity to, you know,
yeah, 100%.
yeah,
And me and my siblings, we did so much to try and save her.
yeah,
From leaving school to go find her, ending up finding her in a hotel room, in a shithole area where
yes,
we could see meth all over the room. And um, as soon as she recognizes us, which that's the other thing, is like she was so cracked out of her mind, she didn't even recognize us until we spoke. uh, but
Lord.
once she recognized us, she immediately tried to swallow all the meth. And me and my 2 older brothers had to tackle her down and basically rip the drugs out of her mouth. And then at that point, we had taken her. We actually called the cops on her, and
Yeah.
because she was like biting us and like just being completely psychotic on drugs, of course. Um,
So
but
at this
we,
point, you're in your what? How old are you? Like, did she
I
have
was,
full custody of you?
no, she had lost custody of all
Okay.
of me and my siblings. And
Okay.
she was, at that point, she was kind of just freeloading all over the place and hitchhiking all over. And it was really hard to find her, to be honest. She was living homeless and just on the streets, and just focused on getting her next fix.
Okay, I
So
was
at
not like that, by the way. Okay, so like when you tell you we're similar, we're not really. My failure was like losing my business and
no,
ending up,
yeah, no,
living
I
in like
just mean
Mickey
like,
Mouse. But yours is really like that's
yeah,
learning from
true
like you don't
complete
want to.
polar
Yours
opposites.
is
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, true
Yeah,
polar
and
opposites.
when she comes out, do you have any thoughts about it? Like that's got to be the toughest thing, watching a mother go through that. Like that's beyond. See, my daughter said I was a good role model because I came back up again. But do you see your mother able to come out in society and function? And
Um,
that's just an opinion, but that must be something that goes through your head. I would think.
yeah, totally. I think, I didn't talk to her up until about 3 months ago. And at that point, I I just felt like I should try and contact her. So I started
Yeah.
making contact with her in jail. And, now I talk to her almost every day. And it's
But you have to
hard.
be
It's not
careful.
easy.
Yeah, because you have to
Yeah,
be careful about your mindset while dealing with that
100%. And
and
that's the,
trying to find. I remember my son once saying, he says, Mom, he said, I used to be able to compartmentalize things, and now I have a hard time compartmentalizing things. But in a case like yours, you would have to be able to be able to, you have to be strong enough to be able to do that,
yeah,
compartmentalize,
yeah,
right?
it's
I love that
important to
word
like,
that he used. And he told me, he
yeah,
says, I can't anymore. And because he's got, we've had things going on in family and stuff. And I said, I get it. I understand that. But I loved his saying about that. Like, you really have to make sure that that doesn't, that you, and it sounds like you're already there anyway. So, like,
well,
Jordan, I'm not going
I,
to be
I
questioning
think
it.
that,
But it's a
no, I
big
think,
step, it's a big step to step back into your mother's world.
yeah, I think it's important to know your value in something like
Yeah.
that and then
Yeah.
know your worth. And like, you don't have to, in my opinion, I don't care if you're a parent or a kid or a friend. I don't care who you are. Uh, you got to know your limits on what you can subject yourself to
Yes.
before you cut that person off. And that's been the difficult part is lately I've had to kind of take a step back from the relationship because it's just been, she just wants money to buy drugs in prison. So, to be honest, I just keep praying for her. And I feel like if anybody can change her, it's going to be God. And, that's the only thing we can hope for and pray for. Um, but, she's got a lot of what I tell her is she's doing the same things in prison that got her to where she's at.
Yeah.
And if she wants to make a difference, she needs to quit being selfish and start looking at the pain that she's caused everyone in her life and start being a lot more unselfish and start living for us instead of herself. And then
And
I
that
just
won't,
tell her,
no,
yeah,
she has to start loving herself first.
yeah. I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
that
I'm
too.
not a
But
psychologist, but seriously, that was where it all came from me is loving myself first. Because when you're doing everything for everyone else and if someone says you have to do this for us, like my daughter says, Mom, like when I was bulimic, she was saying, I love you. I don't want to lose you. But I didn't find myself yet. And then and it's
yeah,
horrible because here's my daughter, like we're talking about it, and at least I did. I explained my daughter what was going on and so on and so forth, and she spoke out. But then, she went through some issues too in her teens, right? And she said to me, she goes, "Mom, I don't care what you feel. This is about me, how I feel, right?" So and at that point, it was exactly right what I thought was it's about what she feels, and she has to really open her eyes and say, I love myself and I love the people around me and I realize I'm loved, right? But if you
yeah,
don't have that, you've got nothing.
totally.
And like you said too, the unfortunate thing, she's in a situation where she's around drugs. If she wasn't, she would probably be more open to seeing, but the drugs are constantly
Yeah. And
Right.
that's where I mean is like you know, she's subjecting herself only to what
Yeah.
she wants, you know,
Yeah.
what her mind is telling her that she wants. And it's like, um, you know, maybe
And
I didn't word it perfectly before, but she's like she needs to find a more of a reason to take care of herself. And what I've also told her is start doing physical work, like start trying to get yourself into like a flow state to where your mind's going to think properly. And when you're
yeah.
thinking properly and you start to like develop, you know, God's temple, you're going to start to love that more. And when you love that more, you're going to be less likely to subject it to drugs and you know alcohol. So
Yeah.
it's just it's a very you know tough
It's
thing.
tough. I
It's
was just
very mentally tough too. It's like it's hard to explain. It's hard to understand. It's hard to find solutions to. Um, but yeah,
I was I'm curious. Okay. So
yeah.
I've heard of child alienation, and it sounds like to me that you and your siblings really ultimately, I mean, there were moments of but when you were younger and looking for and everything that you didn't alienate her. So there obviously was still the love for mom,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right?
So like we have you know to be honest we kind of bailed on our own dads. We have two different dads, you know, between our four siblings
Okay.
and or my three siblings. And my mom was living in like Oklahoma at the time when we were, I think I was in junior high at the time. And my dad, both of our dads sent us on spring break to go spend a week with her. And we called them and we're like, we're not coming home. Like, we're going to try and take care of her. So
Oh,
we went, you know, maybe that was a bad decision on our part,
oh,
but
but it's a beautiful
we
story.
yeah, beautiful story, makes me tear up, but we definitely went through a lot more um, things that we probably shouldn't have seen
Yeah,
because we chose to do that. And I
yeah.
think you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I think it's definitely made me a lot better parent and a lot more present with my own kids. Um,
And
but yeah, definitely tough
it's
thing to
like what
watch.
my yeah, it's like what my daughter said. She watched me like I said, it was just from having to go home and then living with my sister when I lost everything and stuff like that. So it was like it wasn't as extreme. Um, but there was a period where she didn't talk to me and she felt like uh, she went and lived with her dad because I couldn't provide as much as he could. And she was also turning 13, and you don't get along with your mom at 13 because mommy's always right. I didn't like her friends. And what's funny, 5 years later, she came to me, she goes, Mom, you were right about those friends, right? It's
Oh yeah, yeah.
like
Moms always know. Moms
we
always
know.
know.
Uh, and I find like there are those moments where they don't talk, but what my daughter saw from me, it's exactly what you're saying is going to teach you something better. I really you say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is a nice saying, but I also and I do believe in God. I'm not a religious person, but say God, I'm good. And whatever whoever calls whatever to me is God. But what I find is really interesting is he always takes you to where you're supposed to be.
Totally.
Absolutely. Like you might think when you're a kid, I'm going to be a fireman, and then you end up being like an accountant, but then you're going to move on to doing something else and something else, something else. And you're going to say that I'm going to be married to that person my whole life, and then that you're not, and then, but or I'm never going to get married. All of these stupid little things and thoughts. Yeah, good luck with it. God has your plan. You're going where he goes.
100%. And
You can't
it's all
fight it.
his timing, his
It's
plan.
funny.
The more you fight it, the
Right?
more you're gonna feel pain. So
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I
I have
completely
I have the
agree.
best job ever. Here I am, I'm 61. Last night I had a PJ party with my sister who's 63, 64, whatever. 64. She just had her 16th birthday. Yeah, sweet 16. And we had a PJ party and we acted like 10-year-olds. And I'm living with my mom. I was kicked out of my apartment 3 years ago, but my dad was not feeling well. And I ended up moving in with her and I helped her through dad's last moments, right? Like, could God have,
Beautiful.
I got married, I had kids, I divorced, so I wanted to be single my whole life, but I got to live the life that I would never wonder what it's like anymore. I don't have what ifs, right? I
Yeah.
don't have any what ifs. So God put me through life that there's no what ifs. And then I had my 30 years of bulimia, and here I am in a podcast talking to people like you saying, listeners, there is a plan. And whether or not you believe in God, I really believe wherever you end up, like for me, I believe it's God that places me there, but wherever you end up, that is where you're supposed to be at any one time. So open your eyes. If
Yeah.
you're a why, like if you open your eyes, you'll see the why that you're
Yeah.
there, right?
Totally. 100%. Yeah, I
Thank
completely
you.
agree. I think even in my situation here, um, so many times I just get reminded like this is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
And it's like you said, if my eyes were closed, I wouldn't see it, or if my ears were closed, I wouldn't hear it. But
yeah,
um, I've
yeah,
felt it numerous times to the point where it's brought me to tears, just
yeah,
crying like a baby. But yeah, it's life is beautiful. I think everyone um should enjoy life and look for the whys
yeah,
and help themselves by practicing positive habits every day. And I'm keep saying that because that's what's helped me the most. Just stacking wins every day, and you'll have good days, good weeks, good months, good years, and then you'll look back and not be feeling regret of what could have been or what should have been. And when you're thinking in the past or in the future, a lot of times you find yourself holding a drink or holding a drug, and just live in the moment. Have your
mm,
ears open, your eyes open, and just take it all in and enjoy life.
I love it. It's cute because we also said that my daughter and I today we were chatting and I said, people say don't look in the past, don't have regrets. But I have to look in the past and look at my fun time with my kids and look at the fun thing. So
Oh
when
yeah,
people say don't look
with
at
the
the
kids,
past,
with the kids, it's
darn
different.
right, look in the past, look in the past, look in the past. Don't look in the past for the
The
wrong,
photos.
but look in the past for the beautiful. Like I've got my daughter on YouTube
Oh
when she
yeah.
was 10 years old, who was on television on a and I go and watch that on YouTube all the time. That makes me happy. Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
when they say don't look to the past, that's for the negatives, but please look to the past because I wrote to her, I said, seriously, if I don't have those moments to cherish, what was my life for? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so I lost my business, but at the time I had my business, I had this little hobby farm with goats and chickens and so I want and things that make you smile and laugh. Like my sister last night at our PJ party, and we got our little feet up in the air, on the bed, and we're like, doing the kicking on the bed like we used to do as kids when you had tantrums. Like,
Yeah.
don't let your age stop you from having fun times. Don't let you stop from looking back. Don't look back at the crap, right? And I think that that's what
Totally.
you're doing beautifully is that you're looking at the past, the bad parts is making you stronger. But yeah, look at the bad parts that were really the back parts that were really funny and fun because I can't imagine any person. There may be, and I'm not discounting it, but any family that didn't have at least some fun times when they were younger,
Oh, totally. And I
right?
mean, even all the crap that we went through as kids, like I can tell so many stories of so many really fun times that we had. And like I mean, we used to go catch like tons of frogs and put them in like a tub. Uh
I
and
love
just let
that.
them we used to let them run all over the house and stuff. It would be hilarious. So many just crazy stories of things like that, just catching wildlife and letting it back go. And it was awesome. So yeah, I totally agree. It's good to remember the good moments as well.
Absolutely. I really, really appreciate your time. And I'm sorry if I actually chat a little bit too much because usually I have but this was so fun to interact with you.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you are a mindset, fitness, and nutrition coach. Do you have a place where people can find you?
Yeah, if you want, you can find me on Instagram, and my handle is at one.contract.flooring. And if you're watching this, shoot me a DM and just let me know what you're thinking about it. And appreciate y'all's support so much.
That's absolutely wonderful. And I will definitely be posting this and everything and letting our listeners know where to contact you in the notes as well. So thanks again. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
meeting you. It was really wonderful. And we'll
Absolutely.
be in touch. Absolutely. Okay.
Awesome. You have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too. Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.